One. We're live and on the air. This is Booch's Bark, and normally I get on here and I lecture you about how the Bigfoot world should be and what you're doing wrong. And I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna get on here with somebody else, and we're both going to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Stephen Streufert. He's the owner of the Bigfoot books in where is it, Stephen?
Willow Creek, California.
Willow Creek, California, and. Yeah, Stephen, you and I have been on the Facebooks and on the internets, basically championing the cause of reason in the Bigfoot world. Do you think it's a lost cause or not?
Yeah, well, in the Bigfoot world, it certainly seems to be so. It's like jousting at windmills, you know, Don Quixote style. For every convert we get to our group or to the cause of rational thinking, there are 50 who go and sign up for Dr. Johnson's cult or start believing in mind speak or whatever it is. You know, they're standing in the shower one morning and they hear a voice, a low, deep voice, you know, that says, "Don, you know, come out to the woods and I will teach you about the way of nature." And that's all it takes, I guess. You know. It's a gateway to all kinds of psychological aberrations, it seems to me. Not that everybody in it is crazy, of course. There's a lot of smart people. I'd like to think that we're among them. You know, people are trying to find out why this happens. You know, people see these creatures. You know, whether they're real or not, people see them, and that needs to be explained. Why they're seen, why they are seen plain as day in the middle of the day eating blackberries in someone's backyard. You know, why what they thought was a bear can stand up and be 8 feet tall and walk away for 100 yards across a rural backyard, right? That's a worthy question to explore, I think.
That was one of the cheesy sound effects for the show. Yeah, I agree. You know, myself, I think at one time wondered what people were seeing that they could think that, you know, these Bigfoot were cloaking and whatnot. And I had more than one experience with a big creature. Both were accidental. The first one, he definitely wanted us to see him, and he made no bones about it. He chased me and the friend I was with for about a mile, and right out in the open, well, right out in our view, we could see him right behind us, and he was not, you know, in the bushes or nothing. He was loping down the road behind us, and now the other one I saw, I was out in a Polaris out in the back 40 at a friend's ranch, and I was just running back. I was running back to see if I could find any chanterelle mushrooms. I don't know if you know about your part of the country. There's a lot of mushrooms, chanterelles, and, yeah.
What kind?
And yeah, I like eating chanterelles, so I went out back to see if I could find some chanterelles to make for dinner, and I come around the corner of this hill, and right in front of me, this one goes booking down the hill, and so I went and I was like, got excited, and I went and chased him in the Polaris down the hill through the brush and all this stuff, and which is kind of stupid to me. I could have wrapped the Polaris around a stump somewhere, but I wasn't thinking. I went and chased him, and he was boogieing and boogieing and boogieing, and he ditched into some thick brush, and that's the last I saw of him. As long as I chased him about 300 yards, and as far as I chased him, if he was a cloaker, he could have cloaked at any time, and bam, that would, you know, he would have been gone.
Well, they only cloak for special people.
Oh, of course, you know, if you got a good heart,
You gotta be special.
Yeah, you got to have a good heart for to see a cloaker.
In fact, the more often you encounter Bigfoot, the more often it will cloak, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you want to see Bigfoot every day, it's going to be cloaked most of the time.
Absolutely, it's amazing. I mean, We've had some experiences here with some of these proponents of cloaking and the defenders of Dr. J and Ed Waterman, in which they've actually either made open or at least very thinly veiled threats to our lives. And what if these people supposedly have a good heart, how would a good-hearted person make a threat on somebody's life, or a threat to the safety of their families?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because they'll say that we're the meanies, because we try to apply critical thinking to these reports and the evidence, and we may say at times that these things are, to us, appear to be untrue, or not what they're claimed to be. This makes us evil and bad, Those people, they just see what they want to see, I think. They're having a fantasy world, and if you challenge that fantasy world, it's quite a lot like religion. They're gonna get angry with you. When their whole spiritual life, their personal development, their sense of the future, the sense of the promise of the universe is all based upon seeing these little Sasquatches in the foliage, you're challenging their very core of their being, The problem is that stuff that they're basing themselves upon is not apparent to other people. It's just not there. Like when I see these photographs, what I see is trunks and stumps and leaves, shadows, and the play of light upon a forest. I don't see any Bigfoot there. And they're going to come out and say, well, that's because you're ignorant. You're ignorant because you don't see my delusion, is what they're going to say to you. And they're going to get very angry. I've had many death threats, violence threats. I've had my window shot out in my bookstore. Who knows if that had to do with Bigfoot or not, but it never ends. Every single day there's somebody who's really angry. And I'm never really angry. All I do is take a look at stuff and say, shit, that is bullshit, right? That is not real. It's nothing personal to M.K. Davis or Ed Waterman or whomever. It's not real, okay? And if it is real, all they have to do is show the before and after photos of this thing walking through the woods, Don't show me one blurry, zoomed-in shot of a foliage scene that is about 5 inches tall and claim that there's faces of Bigfoot in there. That would have to be a creature that's maybe 3 inches tall. I don't accept that as evidence. It doesn't prove anything in the real world. It just proves that somebody's having a fantasy trip with photographs, right?
Absolutely. It's gotten to be ridiculous, and I think what happened is that the Dyer hoax kind of opened the floodgates to some people. That the Dyer hoax basically proved to some opportunists that they can get out and say and do anything and get a number of followers, and it's it's amazing the lack of reasoning that some of these people show. And I mean, I had to, along with Philip, or excuse me, along with Randy Filipovic and a few others, we had to basically catalog everything that had happened in the hoax and go, here's what you do, here's what Rick said, here's this, here's that, here's this. And no matter how much proof that we showed, that this in fact was a hoax. I mean, we even had we were the ones who discovered first where Rick had his little prop made, and no matter how much proof we had, these people just wanted to believe, and they threw out fact, and they threw out reasoning, and they threw out everything because they wanted to believe Rick. And I think that's the case with a lot of these people, is they want to believe. And I think that a lot of these people don't actually see anything in these pictures posted by Waterman and Dr. J, but they want to believe, and they want to be part of that group, so they're going to say they did.
Yeah, Uh, the will to belong to a social group is a powerful thing, and I mean, I guess it's not easy to just stand up for truth and to be honest and just say, despite what your whole social group, some few thousand Bigfoot people on the internet nowadays think of you, it's not easy to just come out and say, well, I think that's bullshit. And when there's this pressure that if you say it's bullshit, to somebody who's your friend, you're hurting their feelings, right? But belonging to something like the Melba Ketchumite group or the Dyer group, it's exciting. The thrill of adventure and discovery, right? So I mean, I think that's one thing that they really like, is just to be part of something and feel like they're an insider, right?
Absolutely. I think when the Melba Ketchum thing began, I contacted Melba, and I was in close contact with her just to get a feel, and I was speaking with her, if not every night, about every other night. Hey, how's everything going? And and I was really excited about the upcoming release of this supposed paper, and the peer review. But then all of a sudden things started getting fishy, and I started seeing where she had purchased the magazine that she was doing the review from, or the journal, Lenovo, whatever it was, and things just started getting fishy. And I said, "Whoa, wait a minute!" I backed the fuck out, and I said I washed my hands of it, and because I knew what was coming. And sure enough, it was like all this people started debunking what she had put forth, and all of a sudden the personal attacks came, and and it just got ugly after that. And I just washed my hands of the whole thing.
And the personal attacks came out of her believer group more than anybody else. I mean, like we were saying, they wanted so badly for Melba Ketchum to be right that they could give a shit about science, the actual science of it. And even now, it's been proven to be wrong in so many cases with so many legitimate scientists looking at it. Haskell Hart, I mean, the analysis that Tyler Huggins and Bart Casino did on that sample that they found with Justin, it's a bear. It's a damn bear. And no matter how hard you try, trying to make it into a Bigfoot, there is no hocus pocus you can do to make it change suddenly biologically into something that it's not. But that's exactly what Melba did. She had a bunch of samples from known animals, just like Brian Sykes did. Maybe she had some real Sasquatch samples that she just botched. We don't know, because she hasn't released all of her data for every sample, and she hasn't returned the samples to people who submitted them. So I mean, there's no real science there at all. And I mean, the sad thing is that this stuff was coming out like as early as 2010, that she was like appropriating samples, cutting people out of the project. Even Justin's samples and the stuff that Wally Hersham was paying for it. If you read Michael Green's book, it just came out, Sasquatch for Sale, he covers this stuff rather in depth. Melba was a hired employee of Wally Ketchum to test the samples that he submitted. He thought of her as a DNA analysis lab, which is what she claimed to be. But instead, she started taking all the samples and acting as if they were hers. As if she owned the thing. There's even talk of her wanting to patent the sequencing and any subsequent uses of the Sasquatch genome. This is just like the height of arrogance, most extreme delusions of grandeur that woman had. And I think it much worse than Dyer. Dyer was just a media player, but Melba Ketchum actually got to the heart of things in the people's desire to have science prove that Bigfoot is real. This is like what all Bigfoot people want, is to see it proven real, right? And she played with the deepest desires of the Bigfooting community and just fucking threw them to the dogs. It's really sad and sick, actually. the level that she exploited the whole community for 5 years. After that, this is what we've got: a bunch of people who've gone off the deep end. Like they've given up on science, right? You see that? Like
Absolutely.
all the physical people have emerged out of the woodwork, and they now feel empowered. Like, we don't need science, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like M.K. Davis. I mean, M.K. Davis, I followed him for a while, and for the last 2 years. And I guess you've been having problems with him since 2008, but I didn't see all that. I was generally kind of new to all this stuff in the last 2 years. I was mostly involved with debunking Rick Dyer, and after that was over, I started paying more attention to everything else, and I'm starting to get more into, what's wrong and what's going on in the community, and a lot of what I see has disgusted me. There's this cult of personality thing within Bigfootery. And it just seems to me that, like, for example, I was interested in the Brown, what's his name? The guy who found Stacy Brown, the alligator arm.
Oh, Lord.
Brown comes out and he says, okay, I've got what could turn it over to some biologists to take a look at this thing and see exactly what it is, but it could be a skunk ape arm. And my finger of shame goes to Stacy Brown because he said that initially. He didn't. He basically came out and sensationalized his find before it was actually discovered what it was, and basically generated buzz for himself, which I guess is fine, okay, but it just makes the rest of us look like fucking assholes. It makes the rest of us look like the community look like we're a bunch of dumbass hicks and yokels.
Yeah, but who? It really makes him look bad, right? I just sit here like you probably do and see day after day these ridiculous presentations of non-evidence. I, as much as anybody, would love to see something real and good, something at least as probably real as you might feel watching the Patterson film. But getting these people that present like bones that are obviously from a quadruped as a Sasquatch without any prior knowledge of anatomy of animals or any DNA testing. I mean, they are just leading you along to get involved in their excitement over their research projects, but they're not really doing research. They're not really honestly looking at things, and they're not accountable to the facts. Like the facts of the matter would be knowing your area well enough to say what something is. It's not a Bigfoot. The thing was 18 inches long. Now, how could that be a Bigfoot, right? A Bigfoot is supposed to be 8 feet tall, 9 feet, 10 feet. A skunk ape may be a slightly smaller version of that. So what the hell are they doing having an 18-inch limb, which obviously has the proportions of a quadruped, and saying it's a skunk ape? I really don't.
He's a Florida native, isn't he?
He's a what?
He's a Florida? Yeah, he's a Florida native, isn't he?
Well, as far as I know. Not to say anything bad about Florida, but...
Oh, no, but I mean, in Florida, there's plenty of gators, and I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I played out in the woods, and I got to know the local flora and fauna, and, I've shot deer, and I've shot rabbit, and, and I've shot squirrels and such, and, as a result, I got to know what a deer skeleton looked like. I got to know what a rabbit skeleton looked like. I've got to know, what squirrel skeletons kind of look like, and But you think growing up in Florida, you probably had some interaction with alligators at some point in time.
Yeah. Well, real life experience ought to teach you these things. But, you know, just using your eyes and looking at the goddamn thing, it's not an arm from a giant primate. It's a stubby little bone they found in the woods. All right, are they that desperate to have some kind of evidence, you know? I don't know. I mean, we've been doing Bluff Creek for all these years now. We have yet to see a Bigfoot up there. We've yet to see an absolutely convincing trackway. Although we found prints, we've yet to get an image of a Bigfoot on the camera. But we've gotten blurry brown blob squatches. We could put those out as Bigfoot evidence, you know. We could be crying to high heaven about the stuff we got this last winter. But the best of our ability to ascertain, it's a bear. It just happened to be a bear that was like playing with the trail camera and, you know, didn't come into the center of view and wasn't in focus. We're not going to make that into a Bigfoot just to satisfy our wishful thinking, you know. If we want to discover something, we have to actually really, really solidly discover it and hopefully have corroborative evidence that goes along with it, you know. A blurry blob is not going to be enough. We collected hair, but it looks like bear hair, you know. This kind of reminds me of, like, you know, that Olympic project. They had a blurry blob that supposedly licked the trail camera, so they collected the saliva and sent that to Melba Ketchum. I mean, that's really not enough basis to go on just because there's something in front of the camera that licked it, you know. I mean, good for them to send it in and get it tested, but I wouldn't get my hopes up and declare that it's a Sasquatch before the fact, you know.
Absolutely. My father and my brother are working on an area in Oregon, and probably about maybe 100 miles north of where you are. And that's the area where I had my two sightings. My father this last not this summer but last summer, my father and mother were out in that area, and they actually saw 3 of them walking together. And my brother this last summer was out in that area, and he was being followed by one, and he turned around and saw it, and so the thing realized that my brother spotted it, and the thing dropped down between 2 trees and some bushes. And by the time my brother was able to get a picture of it, all you seen was this dark black blob between 2 trees. And you know, my brother was like, "Oh, I got the evidence of proof Sasquatch," and he was joking, of course, and he sent it to me, and I was like, "All right, your first blob squatch, congratulations."
Yeah, I mean, we've had bears come down. One bear came down the hill chasing after a fawn and practically barreled down right on top of us on this near vertical cliff face, basically, above the film site in Bluff Creek. And it stopped when one of our party made a huffing noise at it, and it heard, and it stuck its head up from the scent trail and looked at us. You know, it was just up the hill, but 2 or 3 seconds later, it would have been right on top of us. And, you know, meanwhile, I'm reaching for my camera, and by the time I got that damn pocket camera out, turned it on, got it lined up and focused, that was not enough. And I couldn't zoom in far enough because it had started retreating, so I got a really nice picture of a bear butt blending in with some stumps, and you can hardly tell it's even a bear. And that was a really close encounter. I mean, it was so close that a couple seconds it would have really literally been off the face of the hill on top of us, and who knows what would have happened. Still didn't get a decent photo of that.
No. You should send that picture to Ed Waterman. He might be able to find a few Sasquatch in there for you.
It's just a little round black shape in the woods, you know. But I mean,
2 stumps.
Yeah. Well, we have plenty of pictures of blob squatches we've gotten up there too, you know. We look for them. You can just look at the trees and find these optical illusions. And we've taken many pictures of these blob squatches, and often at times we've thought like, yeah, too bad we're not hoaxers. You know, we could get really famous with this crap. You know, just put it out there. This piece of alder bark that we found in our video, it looks just like a Sasquatch, but it was an accidental zoom in on some alder bark that the camera picked up. If we had segregated that out and put it up on the internet, we'd be on television for this stuff right now. We're too honest, I guess. You know, I mean, I'm not willing to lie or fool myself just to confirm some earnest desire that we can be heroically proving Bigfoot exists. You know, for me, it's going to take something as good as the Patterson film, and hopefully hopefully better than that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you've seen some of my Booch Barks broadcasts previously, where I've come out and said, well, okay, all right, people, here's the deal. I think one of them I said, all right, if you're taking a picture and you show it to somebody and they don't say, oh my God, that's a Bigfoot, that's probably not good evidence.
Yeah, well, what can you do, you know?
Yeah.
Looks like my battery.
Do you have a
I'm gonna have to plug this in a minute, but you know, like, you saw these things as clear as day. It sounds like in your experiences with them.
Yeah.
What do we say to somebody like you? Your eyes and your brain witness these things, even though your camera or whatever might not have. And there's plenty of witnesses like you who've seen these things. You don't seem like a crazy guy to me, you know. How could this thing be unreal? How could it be a piece of folklore, and you've actually witnessed it for how long did you say? Like 15 minutes, something like that?
Well, the first one the first one I saw, you know, I saw his face and I saw the front of his body, and that was about probably a good 5-10 minutes, 15-minute encounter with it. The second one I just saw his ass end, and but you know, it was close enough that I definitely recognized that it was a bipedal primate, and both of them I noticed had very they had kind of long stringy body hair, and that's got me to thinking is that their body hair. When I saw a ghillie suit years later, when I saw my first ghillie suit, I started thinking, you know, that ghillie suit looks a lot like Sasquatch hair. And there's been a lot of hoax videos out there using a ghillie suit, so you know it makes sense.
Sure enough.
And you know, it's like but a ghillie suit that's got little strips of material, and you know, these Sasquatches, this is actually evidently hair. But I think that the purpose of a ghillie suit is to break up the human body profile. You know, and that's what I think the long hair would do in a Sasquatch as well, and which probably makes it easier for them to hide.
Yeah, of course, we could talk all day about these things and not have anything conclusive from it. That's the problem. You know, we have thousands of witnesses who report various features. They seem to be consistent too. You know, across the country, up into Canada, and whatever. These things don't just randomly occur to people. You don't have them generally having like long fangs and long claws and a horn on the top of their heads. You don't have them ending up looking like various monsters you see in movies. I mean, it's a consistently described thing. But you know, these details that you describe, it's like a mundane detail. You know, people aren't gonna make this stuff up, I would think, to impress anybody. Like, you know, it had shaggy hair or whatever. It just seems to be that this is what people report it having often. You know, if you report extraordinary things like it mind speaks to you, or it got levitated up into a UFO, that's like a different kind of order of thing. it sounds more and more like a tall tale, and you're trying to impress somebody, right?
Yeah.
I don't see how the story of you, what you've described, is to impress anybody. It seems very down to earth and a basic description of something that happened to you. You know, these are the kind of sightings I put more credence in. I get these people telling me these things all the time here in Willow Creek.
Yeah, definitely. And it was my first sighting got me interested in Bigfoot, but I never really actively pursued them until I had my second sighting, and then I was like, you know, well, and that was, you know, in my 30s, and I was more able to do things to pursue them, and, you know, rather than, you know, in my younger days when I was just, you know, starting out life and just trying to survive. But yeah, this Bigfoot thing is, you know, it's got me by the balls, and you know, there's a lot of people that have said the same thing. You know, I saw Bigfoot, now it's got me by the balls, and you know, it's one of those special things. I think I don't, you know, I don't care to argue with skeptics about it too much. I don't, you know, it's just I saw it, and I know I saw it, and I know it wasn't a mass hallucination, you know, and so, you know, it's just right now, I think I'm more interested in possibly, you know, finding that creature and having it classified, and but this crap, you know, this crap solely on my hobby, all this, you know, paranormal stuff and all this hoaxing and just this bullshit. That's bullshit. That's what I'm interested in right now, is basically quashing it. And,
yeah, sure enough. It's disappointing, isn't it? You know, I've never had an experience where I flat out saw it, like, right in front of me. You know, I've had weird things happen in the woods, but I get so many of these sightings reports from people. Oops, are you there?
Yeah, yeah, you're still there.
Wrong button there. I get so many of these sightings reports that I find it hard to just totally dismiss the thing, you know.
Definitely.
But dealing with these people like Kiwoni Lapsaritis or Tom Cantrell or Arla Williams, who are claiming that they're receiving psychic messages and spiritual teachings from Bigfoot, or the UFO people. I mean, it's going too far. Like, I would just like to see a reasonable explanation for why people see these things. If it's a psychological or mythological thing, fine. If it's a real animal, fine, right? But when you have a mysterious thing and then you add another mystery to it, you're eventually creating a religion, you know, where the mysteries compound upon each other and create a completely delusional worldview, right? Something that can never be proven, and in fact stands in opposition to proof, right?
Right.
Like, they actually say, I don't need to prove this thing. I know it exists. Well, I mean, how anti-intellectual can you be? You know,
Yeah.
You've had an experience. You think at least that you could be the biggest skeptic of them all, right? Like the things that have happened to me, like this thing that came down in my yard. I'm the most hardcore skeptic about that. I never say that it was a Bigfoot. I don't know for sure because I didn't see it, you know. But if I get Matt Moneymaker or Bobo or any of these guys to come out to my house and look, they're all going to say, dude, it was a Squatch. You know, I mean, that's just what they do. And I'm the one shrugging my shoulders, saying, well, I don't know. It was a cool and weird thing, but I just don't know if it was Bigfoot. And I think everybody should have that attitude, because, I mean, you could be going through your day and someone drops some LSD in your drink, and the next thing you know, you're seeing, like, Bigfoot and it's talking to you in your mind. You might never realize what happened to you. You know, the human brain also is capable of generating this crap without somebody dosing you. I mean, when you're dreaming at night, you create an entire world, right? All from your own mind, and it's when you're in that dream, it's completely real, and none of it is happening in objective reality. Anybody looking at you would see that you're just lying in a bed, sleeping. But to you, that world is real. And if you can create a world in your dreams, then you certainly can create a fantasy world in the woods where Bigfoot is everywhere and fairies are dancing under every leaf, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening with these people. A lot of them.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of reminds me of Eric Beckford. I don't know if you've had any experience with Eric.
No, he died before I really got too deeply involved in this madness. But his stuff was some of the first things I saw on the internet.
Yeah.
Like when I looked up Bigfoot on the internet, I found things like Beckford and the BFRO and Bobby Short's Bigfoot Encounters, and that was about all there was, back there in the late 90s.
Yeah, Beckford in the early 2000s, before he died, he focused on me for about a year.
Really?
And and he was. I blocked him off my email. I changed my phone number, and next thing you know, I'm getting calls from Eric Beckford again. And he found a way to get around, and he found a way to get my private phone number, and I don't know how. But it was kind of frightening, and sometimes I humored him and spoke to him about his things, but maybe that's what I have against all these paranormal woo-woo stuff is just my experience with Eric. I don't know, maybe that's why I'm so against it. I don't know, but definitely I let's figure out what this damn thing is first, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, if they're speaking psychically to people, then, well, why don't we prove it? Let's run a test in the woods, and we can have them meet with Tom Cantrell, and we could bring one in for scientific study just temporarily under mutual agreement. Like, come on in, we're going to run some tests on you to see. And, if they're really connected with UFOs, let's have them call in some UFOs, too. Bring them down while we're at it. But, I mean, Beckford was a pretty unique character. He's kind of a stalker of witnesses, From what I've heard, he wanted to basically own witnesses, and he'd harass them to get all the inside information that he could.
That's what he did to me.
Yeah, he's very competitive. As far as investigating sightings, he didn't want Renee DeHinden or anybody else to show up. It had to be him. He's quite a character. I mean, very big conspiracy theorist, and thought he was a secret agent man of some kind,
He was good at getting my personal info. I know that because I've actually, back then I made it a practice to keep myself off the grid, and it didn't help with him. He found me easy as hell, and that was a little bit scary.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess he probably had some connections. He seems to have investigated a lot of people on pretty deep levels. He had these kind of claims that he was involved in intelligence to some degree, like secret agent intelligence. Who knows? I mean, it seems like that was his paranoid delusional fantasy, and somehow Bigfoot got to be part of it, But I mean, he also got involved in Princess Diana conspiracy theories about how she was killed by somebody. I mean, if you remember his webpage, it was pretty wacky. Right?
Yeah.
It didn't just deal with his blog and stuff. It didn't just deal with Bigfoot. It was all kinds of wacky shit.
Yeah, the only thing wacker than Eric Beckford, I think, in my opinion, is Time Cube. But we'll stop right there. Well, I'd like to thank you, Stephen, for your time. I appreciate sitting here and conversing with you. That's something I've wanted to do for a long time, is just get, just casual conversation with you. And
no problem. I'm not used to these video things, but
yeah. Hey, I did this really on the cheap, and I don't have any special recording equipment or anything like that. So, we're just a step above doing the interview by smoke signals.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of images that people can get copies of and claim that I look like Charles Manson and everything that they always do. Uh,
Yeah,
all
I
these
was.
supporters of MK Davis, they just love to do this kind of thing. A lot like Beckford, they'll stalk you and try to pry into your life and try to discredit whatever you have to say uh, based upon some still shot that they managed to get from a Google Hangout show.
Yeah, well, if it'll help them out, then I'd say get the Dr. Frankenfurter's assistant off Rocky Horror Picture Show. There you go.
Well, they do this because they can't deal with your ideas. They don't. They're avoiding logic and reason and rational thought. And they have
Yeah,
no evidence usually for what they're claiming. So the only thing that they can do is vociferously assert their egotistical anger and use ad hominem and all kinds of other fallacies. Um, this is all they have. I mean, certainly you can't prove that Bigfoot is real by using ad hominem fallacies against your enemies. You might say that's bullshit every once in a while.
yeah. Well, as they say that religion is the last resort of the scoundrel, ad hominem is the last resort of the ignorant.
Yeah, that in politics.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down and go off and continue my life. And
All right.
I gotta continue. I gotta go meet somebody here online and play World of Tanks with them. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I appreciate it. It's fun to do this.
yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Stephen. I'll go ahead and maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, let me know.
All
Keep
right,
on
definitely,
that real evidence now.
definitely. All right, keep on keeping on, Stephen. And this has been Booch's Bark. This is Don.
Cheers.